Romeo, a right good markman, and she's fair, I love. Benvolio, a right fair mark, fair coz, is soonest hit. Romeo, well, in that hit you miss. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow. She hath Dian's wit, and in strong proof of chastity well armed, from love's weak childish bow she lives unharmed. She will not stay the siege of loving terms, nor bide the encounter of assailing eyes, nor ope her lap to saint seducing gold. Oh, she's rich in beauty, only poor that when she dies, with beauty dies her store. Benvolio, then she hath sworn that she will still live chaste? Romeo, she hath, and in that sparing makes huge waste. For beauty, starved with her severity, cuts beauty off from all posterity. She is too fair, too wise, wisely too fair, to merit bliss by making me despair. She hath forsworn to love, and in that vow do I live dead that live to tell it now. Benvolio, be ruled by me, forget to think of her. Romeo, oh, teach me how I should forget to think. Benvolio, by giving liberty unto thine eyes. Examine other beauties. Romeo, 'tis the way to call hers exquisite in question more. These happy masks that kiss fair ladies' brows, being black, puts us in mind they hide the fair. He that is struck and blind cannot forget the precious treasure of his eyesight lost. Show me a mistress that is passing fair. What doth her beauty serve but as a note where I may read who passed that passing fair? Farewell, thou canst not teach me to forget. Benvolio, I'll pay that doctrine, or else die in debt. Exit. End of Scene 1. Scene 2. A street. Enter Capulet, Paris, and servant. Capulet. But Montague is bound as well as I, in penalty alike, and 'tis not hard, I think, for men so old as we to keep the peace. Paris. Of honorable reckoning are you both, and pity 'tis you lived at odds so long. But now, my lord, what say you to my suit? Capulet. But saying o'er what I have said before. My child is yet a stranger in the world. She hath not seen the change of 14 years. Let 2 more summers wither in their pride, ere we may think her ripe to be a bride. Paris. Younger than she are happy mothers made. Capulet. And too soon marred are those so early made. The earth hath swallowed all my hopes but she. She is the hopeful lady of my earth. But woo her, gentle Paris, get her heart. My will to her consent is but a part. And she agree, within her scope of choice lies my consent and fair according voice. This night I hold an old accustomed feast, whereto I have invited many a guest, such as I love. And you among the store, one more most welcome makes my number more. At my poor house look to behold this night earth-treading stars that make dark heaven light. Such comfort as do lusty young men feel, when well-apparelled April on the heel of limping winter treads, even such delight among fresh female buds shall you this night inherit at my house. Hear all see, and like her most whose merit most shall be, which among view of many, mine being one, may stand in number, though in reckoning none. Come, go with me. Go, sirrah, trudge about through fair Verona, find those persons out whose names are written there, gives a paper, and to them say, my house and welcome on their pleasure stay. Exit Capulet and Paris. Servant. Find them out whose names are written here. It is written that the shoemaker should meddle with his yard, and the tailor with his last, the fisher with his pencil, and the painter with his nets. But I am sent to find those persons whose names are here writ, and can never find what names the writing person hath here writ. I must to the learned, in good time. Enter Benvolio and Romeo. Benvolio. Tut, man, one fire burns out another's burning. One pain is lessened by another's anguish. Turn giddy, and be holp by backward turning. One desperate grief cures with another's languish. Take thou some new infection to thy eye, and the rank poison of the old will die. Romeo, your plantain leaf is excellent for that. Benvolio, for what, I pray thee? Romeo, for your broken shin. Benvolio, why, Romeo, art thou mad? Romeo, not mad, but bound more than a madman is, shut up in prison, kept without my food, whipped and tormented and— Gaden, good fellow. Servant, God gi gaden. I pray, sir, can you read? Romeo, I, mine own fortune in my misery. Servant, perhaps you have learned it without book, but I pray, can you read anything you see? Romeo, I, if I know the letters and the language. Servant, ye say honestly. Rest you merry. Romeo, stay, fellow, I can read. Reads. Signor Martino and his wife and daughters, County Anselmo and his beauteous sisters, the lady widow of Vitruvio, Signor Placentio and his lovely nieces, Mercutio and his brother Valentine, mine uncle Capulet, his wife and daughters, my fair niece Rosaline, Livia, Signor Valentio and his cousin Tybalt, Lucio and the lively Helena. A fair assembly. Gives back the paper. Whither should they come? Servant, up. Romeo, whither? Servant, to supper, to our house. Romeo, whose house? Servant, my master's. Romeo, indeed, I should have asked you that before. Servant, now I'll tell you without asking. My master is the great rich Capulet, and if you be not of the house of Montagues, I pray, come and crush a cup of wine. Rest you merry. Exit. Benvolio. At this same ancient feast of Capulets sups the fair Rosaline, whom thou so lovest, with all the admired beauties of Verona. Go thither, and with unattainted eye compare her face with some that I shall show, and I will make thee think thy swan a crow. Romeo. When the devout religion of mine eye maintained such falsehood, then turn tears to fires. And these, who often drowned, could never die. Transparent heretics, be burnt for liars. One fairer than my love? The all-seeing sun ne'er saw her match since first the world begun. Benvolio. Tut, you saw her fair, none else being by, herself poised with herself in either eye. But in that crystal scales let there be weighed your lady's love against some other maid that I will show you shining at this feast, and she shall scant show well that now shows best. Romeo. I'll go along, no such sight to be shown, but to rejoice in splendor of mine own. Exit. Scene 3. Room in Capulet's house. Enter Lady Capulet and nurse. Lady Capulet. Nurse, where's my daughter? Call her forth to me. Nurse. By my maidenhead, at 12-year-old I bade her come. What, lamb? What, ladybird? God forbid! Where's this girl? What, Juliet? Enter Juliet. Juliet. How now? Who calls? Nurse. Your mother. Juliet. Madam, I am here. What is your will? Lady Capulet. This is the matter. Nurse, give leave a while. We must talk in secret. Nurse, come back again. I have remembered me. Thou's hear our counsel. Thou knowest my daughter's of a pretty age. Nurse. Faith, I can tell her age unto an hour. Lady Capulet. She's not 14. Nurse. I'll lay 14 of my teeth, and yet to my teen be it spoken, I have but 4. She is not 14. How long is it now to Lammastide? Lady Capulet. A fortnight and odd days. Nurse. Even or odd, of all the days in the year, come Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14. Susan and she, God rest all Christian souls, were of an age. Well, Susan is with God. She was too good for me. But, as I said, on Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14. That shall she, Mary. I remember it well. 'Tis since the earthquake now 11 years, and she was weaned. I never shall forget it. Of all the days of the year, upon that day, for I had then laid wormwood to my dug, sitting in the sun under the dove-house wall, my lord and you were then at Mantua. Nay, I do bear a brain. But as I said, when it did taste the wormwood on the nipple of my dug, and felt it bitter, pretty fool, to see it tetchy and fall out with the dug. Shake, quoth the dove-house, 'twas no need, I trow, to bid me trudge, and since that time it is 11 years. For then she could stand alone, nay, by the rood she could have run and waddled all about, for even the day before she broke her brow. And then my husband, God be with his soul, he was a merry man, took up the child. Yea, quoth he, dost thou fall upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backward when thou hast more wit. Wilt thou not, Jewel? And by my holidame, the pretty wretch left crying, and said, Aye. To see now how a jest shall come about, I warrant, and I should live 1,000 years, and never should forget it. Wilt thou not, Jewel? Quoth he. And pretty fool it stinted, and said, Aye. Lady Capulet. Enough of this. I pray thee hold thy peace. Nurse. Yes, madam. Yet I cannot choose but laugh to think it should leave crying and say, Aye. And yet I warrant it had upon its brow a bump as big as a young cockerel's stone, a parlous knock, and it cried bitterly. Yea, quoth my husband, fall'st upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backward when thou comest to age. Wilt thou not, Jewel? It stinted and said, Aye. Juliet. And stint thou too, I pray thee, nurse, say aye. Nurse. Peace, I have done. God mark thee to his grace. Thou wast the prettiest babe that e'er I nursed, and I might live to see thee married once, I have my wish. Lady Capulet. Marry. That marry is the very theme I came to talk of. Tell me, daughter Juliet, how stands your disposition to be married? Juliet. It is an honor that I dream not of. Nurse. An honor? Were not I thine only nurse, I would say thou hadst sucked wisdom from thy teat. Lady Capulet. Well, think of marriage now. Younger than you, here in Verona, ladies of esteem, are made already mothers. By my count, I was your mother much upon these years that you are now a maid. Thus then, in brief, the valiant Paris seeks you for his love. Nurse. A man, young lady, lady, such a man as all the world. Why, he's a man of wax. Lady Capulet. Verona's summer hath not such a flower. Nurse. Nay, he's a flower, in faith, a very flower. Lady Capulet. What say you? Can you love the gentleman? This night you shall behold him at our feast. Read o'er the volume of young Paris's face, and find delight writ there with beauty's pen. Examine every married lineament, and see how one another lends content. And what obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margent of his eyes. This precious book of love, this unbound lover, to beautify him, only lacks a cover. The fish lives in the sea, and 'tis much pride for fair without the fair within to hide. That book in many's eyes doth share the glory that in gold clasped locks in the golden story. So shall you share all that he doth possess, by having him, making yourself no less. Nurse. No less, nay, bigger. Women grow by men. Lady Capulet. Speak briefly. Can you like of Paris's love? Juliet. I'll look to like, if looking liking move, but no more deep will I endart mine eye than your consent gives strength to make it fly. Enter a servant. Servant. Madam, the guests are come, supper served up, you called, my young lady asked for, the nurse cursed in the pantry, and everything in extremity. I must hence to wait. I beseech you, follow straight. Lady Capulet. We follow thee. Exit servant. Juliet, the county stays. Nurse. Go, girl. Seek happy nights to happy days. Exit. Scene 4. A street. Enter Romeo, Mercutio, Benvolio, with 5 or 6 maskers, torch-bearers, and others. Romeo. What, shall this speech be spoke for our excuse? or shall we on without apology? Benvolio. The date is out of such